If discussing about films, books, poetry, etc. is something that you enjoy, then do consider becoming an abstract member. You will find all the necessary links in our bio, and I hope to see you soon. What you're about to watch is our conversation on Don't Look Up. It's a film starring Leonardo DiCaprio, Jennifer Lawrence, and several others. It's a fascinating film, and we had so much fun discussing this film. I would love to know what you think about our discussion, and do chime in your thoughts in the comments below. Also, please subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. We are finally putting out content more regularly, and there's so much that we want to show you. Hello guys, welcome to the Abstract Room. My name is Sankalp. Anyone who watched the film just for the session maybe, or जिसने पहली बार देखा था, what were your thoughts? What really stayed with you about the film? What was the first impact it had with you? Mike, please go ahead.
तो मैंने अभी खत्म करा है सेशन ज्वाइन करने से एक साथ जैसे सेशन ज्वाइन करा फिल्म खत्म हो गई तो मेरे को आई थिंक अगर एक लाइन में बताना हो कि फिल्म कैसा लगा तो फिल्म इज द मोस्ट रेलिवेंट फिल्म अभी के लिए बट बहुत जल्दी में बना दिया मतलब देयर कुड हैव बीन मोर मटेरियल रिसर्च और अच्छा से हो सकता था सटलिटी मिसिंग था बट हाँ ठीक था
when this film was released on Netflix, that's when I watched it. So थोड़ा अभी pieces में याद आ रही है, but then I remember कि sensationalism, satirical comedy एक किस्म से एक theme लगा मेरे को movie का. And then see actually what's happening with media right now. Like they just capture one story and then just exaggerate it too much. All the other issues are just kept aside. So ये movie में भी like there is some billionaire who is showing कि yeah I'm gonna give the solution. So realism एक side रह गया. What is actually happening right now and what is the ground reality? वो एक तरफ रह गई. But then some person who everyone is like glued like उसकी personality को लेके कि yeah he is the kind of person who can save us all. So just because of that image the whole world gets fooled in a way. There are people who actually see reason and logic. They are like एकदम बफरे हुए कि भाई ये क्या चल रहा है and then all this foolishness like kind of takes over and then what actually happens out of it. So if we let it happen in our world, so what kind of reality we can see in future. एक किस्म से इस किस्म का सटायर को लेके एक ग्लिम्स दिया गया है इस मूवी में and that is the reason I kind of liked it in that sense and overall it's a one time good watch. That's how I see it.
So that's a very well summed up here. Thanks for that. Rhythm, please go ahead. With your experience, can you also talk about film किस पे बारे में बात कर रही है exactly? What is the film's message? If anything.
बेसिकली मैंने फिल्म रिकमेंड करी थी और जैसे श्रद्धा दी ने बोला कि पसंद नहीं आई फिल्म और कई लोगों को पसंद नहीं आई मेरे दोस्तों को एंड देन वी हेल्ड अ टॉक के हम लोग सिनेमा सेंटर पे टॉक के चलो अब बैठ के यही डिस्कस करते हैं एंड वी डिस्कस्ड इट उसके बाद लोगों को बहुत पसंद आई दो फिल्म में बहुत सारी दिक्कतें हैं बट मुझे ये फिल्म अपार्ट फ्रॉम इट्स फिलॉसफी अपार्ट इट्स अ सैटारिकल फिल्म अपार्ट फ्रॉम इट्स सटायर और फिलॉसफी सैटारिकल थी लेकिन कॉमेडी नहीं थी हंसी नहीं आ रही थी बेसिकली तो ना तो डार्क कॉमेडी हो पा रही थी ना सटायर हो पा रहा था तो वो एक इशू था फिल्म के साथ जो मुझे लगा अपार्ट फ्रॉम दैट मुझे लगा था एरन सॉर्गन का स्क्रीन प्ले जैसे वो मोनोलॉग डालता है और वो करने की कोशिश करी गई थी लेकिन वहां तक पहुंच नहीं पाए वो द फिल्म इज अबाउट इट्स अबाउट क्लाइमेट चेंज अगर क्योंकि हम लोगों ने बैठ के बात करी तो वी गॉट टू नो कि वो जो मीटियोर है वो मेटाफर है क्लाइमेट चेंज का कि क्लाइमेट चेंज जो हो रहा है जो मतलब और पूरे अर्थ पे क्लाइमेट चेंज हो रहा है हम लोग उसको इग्नोर कर रहे हैं टोटली हम उसे हंसी मजाक में उड़ा रहे हैं कि यार ये तो होना ही है ये तो चलेगा ही मतलब ये तो साइकिल चलती रहेगी बट अपार्ट फ्रॉम दैट ये इसमें बहुत सारे इश्यूज थे कि मीटियोर इज समथिंग जिसका मैन काइंड या जो मैन मेड नहीं है क्लाइमेट चेंज इज अ मैन मेड थिंग लेकिन मीटियोर इज नॉट अ मैन मेड थिंग तो सेंसलेस है वो तो वो दिक्कतें थी फिल्म के साथ बट मेरे को फिलॉसफी और सटायर के अलग रख के मुझे फिल्म की फिल्म मेकिंग टेक्निक मतलब वो सटायर इट्स लाइक कि हम एक साइंस फिक्शन देख रहे हैं बेसिकली और साइंस फिक्शन को हम लोग कैसे देखते हैं हम मार्वल देखते हैं या हम कोई भी इंटरस्टेलर ऐसी साइंस फिक्शन देखते हैं वी सी प्रॉपर एक अच्छी मतलब एक स्मूथ एडिटिंग एक अच्छे फ्रेम्स स्टिल कैमरा होल्ड्स मतलब हर चीज एकदम पिच परफेक्ट दिखी, देखने का फन, मतलब क्रिस्टोफर नोलन वाला पिच परफेक्ट चीज होनी चाहिए, साउंड डिजाइन हर चीज। एंड यहाँ पे इन्होंने साइंस फिक्शन को गैंग्स ऑफ वासेपुर की तरह बना दिया है, जो बिल्कुल ही एकदम रफली काम कर रहा है। स्टार्ट मास्टर शॉट की जगह आंख के क्लोजअप से स्टार्ट हो रहा है, वो जान उसके इंटेंशनल है। तो वो जो एक अनइजीनेस लेके आता है साइंस फिक्शन के अंदर, उसके लिए मेरे को ये फिल्म बहुत पसंद आई थी। फिल्म मेकिंग टेक्निक के लिए पसंद आई थी, डायरेक्शन के लिए पसंद आई थी, अपार्ट फ्रॉम कि जो लिखा गया है फिल्म के अंदर। और बाकी तो बात करेंगे आगे।
Yeah, and that's a very good point. I think Pehla, about the metaphor you mentioned, I also I wasn't able to articulate it too well, so I was listening to this review right now. थोड़ी देर पहले review नहीं था, पूरा proper video ऐसा analysis था about why do people have issues with this film. तो उसमें they talked about why the usage of the metaphor of this comet is not very appropriate, because it kind of takes away the blame for climate change from humans, because comet पे तो genuinely कोई control नहीं है ना humans का. So it मतलब तो शायद interpretation वैसा आ गया उस चीज का. I think it's valid also that कि मतलब why people don't exactly find that symbolism too appropriate. But also the part you mentioned about the direction वाला thing, it's like structured chaos वाला चीज हो गया ना एकदम. काफी अच्छे से वो मैनेज किया उसमें. मतलब it was obviously very well planned. बड़ी फिल्म है, छोटी फिल्म तो है नहीं, but very structured chaos वाला बात है. और हाँ, वो सॉर्किन वाला मिर्ची डालने का कोशिश था जरूर. जानवी?
फर्स्टली तो मतलब आई लाइक द पार्ट लाइक पीपल मेंशन कि एक तो भले इट वाज नॉट रेलेवेंट द मेटाफोर, बट एटलीस्ट इट गेव अस मतलब जैसे 2012 आया था वैसे ये आया, तो इट जस्ट गिव्स पीपल द हेड्स अप कि हाँ थिंग्स आर गोइंग रॉन्ग इन द एनवायरनमेंट एंड वी नीड टू डू समथिंग अबाउट इट. सो दैट वे आई लाइक द जॉनर ऑफ द फिल्म कि चलो मतलब एटलीस्ट whoever is at least ready to do something about it कि individual level पे तुम कुछ कर सकते हो to avoid this. फिर दूसरा I liked is how they've showed कि the difference between people who are book smart and street smart. कि मतलब Leo भले he was so intelligent but he was not able to put it up to the world कि why is it so important to look up, मतलब to address the problem, while the street smart people, even though they didn't have the knowledge, they were not acknowledging the seriousness of the situation and they were letting it go. So you can learn about the personalities, how they are important in your life. Like भले ही knowledge है तुम्हारे पास in general, but if you are not able to put it out to the world, you are not able to reach the mass when it is necessary.
I think वो बात काफी interesting बोली about. So it's that demarcation between innovators and marketers. It's one thing to create something, it's one thing to package and communicate something.
Yeah, so I have a question for Rhythm. So when you said कि sci-fi movies को देखने का I mean perspective अलग होता है, like you look at editing, frames and all. So story doesn't matter.
Story of course do matter. तभी मैंने कहा कि story wise थोड़ी सी टेढ़ी मेढ़ी है फिल्म, but as a filmmaker मुझे लगता है कि जो फिल्म मेकिंग आप सीख सकते हो कि how you can change the narrative. जो एक नॉर्मल नैरेटिव आता है कि आपको हर चीज कुछ परफेक्ट रखनी है, उसको कैसे चेंज कर सकते हो even in sci-fi.
So when I look at the film as a common audience, जो मैं हूँ, like I don't come from film background or I don't know any film वाले techniques or terms. So I at least expect कि मेरे को story दे दो यार, मतलब मैं जाके बता सकूँ कि ऐसी story थी. तो I didn't feel that connect. एंड जो लोग फिल्मी बैकग्राउंड से नहीं आते तो वो लोग हर चीज नहीं देख पाते कि तुमने एडिटिंग कैसी की है, स्क्रीन प्ले कैसे लिखा है. भले ही तुम एक चीज 5% दे दो बट पूरा मूवी अच्छा कर दो तो वी आर हैप्पी. तो ऐसा पर्सपेक्टिव मेरा है. तो इज इट गुड और बैड?
इट्स नॉट अबाउट गुड और बैड. लाइक हाँ, हम लोगों को पता है कि वी कांट टेल इवन इफ आई एम नॉट अ फिल्म मेकर. अगर मैं नहीं होता और मैं भी अगर ऐसे दिख रहा होता तो मैं भी शायद समझ नहीं पाता वो चीजें, पॉइंट आउट नहीं कर पाता. बट देयर इज अ थिंग बहुत एक गोदार्ड ने कहा था कि उन लोगों से क्वेश्चन पूछा गया था कि अगर हम लोग कोई नॉर्मल ऑडियंस होती है, जो फिल्म बनती है वो मास ऑडियंस के लिए बनती है, जो नॉर्मल ऑडियंस होती है वो फ्रेम्स देखने या शॉट्स देखने नहीं जाती है. बट व्हाट ही टोल्ड कि ऑब्वियसली वो देखने जाती है, बट दैट्स हाउ यू सी द पिक्चर. मतलब वो पिक्चर आपको किस तरीके से फील कराती है. लाइक यू कैन सी इसके अंदर आपको एक दिखेगा कियोस्क सा दिख रहा है, वो एक अजीब सी चीज दिख रही है, एकदम रफ सा. तो वो चीज आपको फील होनी चाहिए. तो जो आपको साइंस फिक्शन में फील नहीं होती है, तो दैट्स द थिंग. जो फिल्म मेकिंग का टेक्निक इस तरीके से वर्क करती है कि वो आपको वो रफनेस फील कराती है इवन इन अ साइंस फिक्शन.
The film wanted us to look at the entire situation from a third party perspective, not from someone who was in there, like in there but not really facing it directly, but to make a mockery of everybody in the film. मुझे I think प्रणव हमारा एक member है, he had told me about this term called detached modernism, which essentially means कि मतलब कैमरा ऐसे प्लेस किया जा रहा है, शॉट्स ऐसे लिए जा रहे हैं कि मतलब you're not really feeling for them, you're making fun of them. फॉर एग्जाम्पल वसेपुर में तुम्हें हंसी आती है इनको देख के कि वो मतलब खुद को हीरो समझ रहे हो, एग्जाम्पल अच्छा है उसका इसलिए, या फिर मतलब इसमें भी वैसा ही था, टू मेक अ मॉकरी और टू मेक अ कमेंट्री ऑन दैट, तो सैटिरिकल फिल्म्स के लिए अच्छा रहता है दैट this form of editing as well. जैसे बीच में randomly snapshots आ रहे हैं of nature, of random things that people are doing in different parts of the world at that point. That I liked. I don't know if that could have worked even better if उसको और ज़्यादा employ किया जाता या फिर or something. But I think that was a very good addition to the entire screenplay in some sense. But मेरे को एक बारे में बात करनी थी. Let's go a little philosophical. ठीक है. So I don't know if the film really explored that. I was really expecting it to. I don't know if it really did because मैंने वो चीज आने के पहले ही मैंने वो thought लिख दिया था मैंने about if you know there's an end date, if you know कि calamity आ रही है, if you know कि it could not necessarily be a comet, it could just be कि let's say I don't know, very sad to say that, but just putting it out there कि मतलब let's say आपको कुछ बीमारी है जिसके आपको पता है 6 महीने ही है मेरे पास में, something like that, ठीक है. तो अगर आपके पास वैसा कुछ है, मतलब आपको पता है कि 6 महीने ही बाकी है मेरे पास में let's say, तो what would your reaction be to that awareness or that realization that you know what, there is an end date that I know of? There's a difference, right? First of all, I want to know what's the difference between knowing that a comet strike करने वाला है and also knowing that death is inevitable.
Certainty, like precision से उसमें it's precision से बता रहे कि this is when you are going to end it. Right, वो I think that is the difference. Like to answer your question कि जो you know what is the difference between inevitability? Like I think man is the only animal, like, or I don't know, who knows that he's going to die one day, but he lives like you know he'll never die. I think ये किसी monk का ही quote था. I think Dalai Lama को ही attributed है शायद ये quote. But yeah, so I think that's the difference.
एक होता है ना वो एक बहुत ही एक क्लीशे सा कोट है कि आए संग में हम जीते संग में लेकिन जाना अकेले है. तो जब हम एक पर्टिकुलर आदमी याद कर रहे हैं देन वी नो कि हम अकेले जाने वाले हैं, एंड जब कोई एपोकलिप्स आ रहा है तो वी नो कि हम सब साथ ही जाने वाले हैं. तो इट्स लाइक अ क्वेश्चन के ऊपर क्वेश्चन कि वो दोनों चीजें जैसे संकल्प में बोला कैसे डिफर करेंगी दोनों चीजें. एक एपोकलिप्स के टाइम पे कि सब लोग साथ में जाने वाले हैं और एक अकेला आदमी, बिकॉज इट्स मोर डिप्रेसिंग जब आपको पता है कि जैसे हम किसी भूत बंगले में जाओ, आप अकेले जाओगे आपको ज्यादा डर लगेगा, साथ में जाओगे तो आप भूत की भी मौकरी कर दोगे.
एक Kierkegaard का quote है, I wanted to read that out, which is you know sort of indicative of the film. So Kierkegaard ने like 1960s में I guess बोला था. So a fire broke out backstage in a theater. The clown came out to warn the public. They thought it was a joke and applauded. He repeated it. The acclaim was even greater. I think that is how the world will come to an end. To general applause from wits who believe it is a joke. So you know it's this quote about like sort of how world will come to an end when people will not believe it. I think the film is a lot about distraction, of the age of distraction that we live in. Like when you know at the start of the movie when Jennifer Lawrence kind of loses her shit and tells on to the audience and all of that, nobody believes her. People instantly start making memes. It is the breakup of Ariana Grande and the other rapper which matters the most, you know, to kind of. So like I think a lot of philosophers who wrote on modernity, you know, expected this. Like the fragmentation of reality is so much in our today's world. How the way I experience reality versus how you experience it, it's very diverse. Thereby, the acceptance of all of us to agree on one common topic at any given point of time, it's very rare. So I think that is the philosophy of this film. It is not like कि लोगों को पता रहेगा. अगर पता रहता तो people would have, you know, that Batman का all prisoners in one boat and all good people in one boat, and now they have to make a choice.
I love that.
So that would have you know, sort of kind of thing could have come through. You know, numbers game taking over and all of that. But इसमें वो नहीं है. इसमें it is the how people will never believe each other. कि अभी बोलेंगे कि you know corona is everywhere. People will still you know have theories about oh no this is some giant you know sort of conspiracy of the rich to control everyone and all of that. So I think the film is a commentary on a lot of that. So इसके पहले इसका एक film था Big Shot करके, same filmmaker, which was about you know the 2007 real estate thing, and it had Brad Pitt and all of that. So I think like to answer Shraddha's question, I think Shraddha का question था like to watch it from a non-filmmaking perspective. I think वो filmmaker का intention ही वो है कि to take a very serious topic and to tell it in a very fun and engaging manner. Like between the movie there is this, when Leo is going to that newsroom और वो उसका टेडी के साथ वो conversation हो रहा है, so that scientist is telling कि remember you just have to tell a story, no math, और लियो बोलता है but it's all math, और वो जब कट होता है उसी, तो मैं दूसरी बार जब देख रहा था मेरे को ऐसा लगा कि एडम रैके जब स्क्रिप्ट लिख रहा होगा वो खुद को ये नोट दे रहा होगा कि remember you have to just tell a story, no math, but it's all math, that's all what is happening.
That's a very interesting point you bring, because I think the question I was trying to ask was with regards to if you have the acceptance, like आपको पता है और आपने accept भी कर लिया ये चीज कि मतलब मैं inevitable हो गया, मुझे पता है कब expiry date आ रही है, तो then तब ये दिमाग में शायद क्वेश्चन आएगा कि how should I live now, बट वो स्टेज तक ही शायद लोग नहीं पहुंच पाए थे, जैसे फिल्म में जैसे दिखाया गया कि वो एक्सेप्टेंस तक पहुंचने के लिए वो रियलाइजेशन ही अभी तक नहीं पहुंचे थे उस पर probably. So, the film actually talks about a different problem, a different philosophical inquiry than the one I was probably asking you or talking about.
Sorry, I'll just take 1 minute.
Yeah.
There's one scene with Mark Rylance where he says, to Leo that we have documented these many types of consumers and you fit into this particular style, that you are just a consumer of an idealist. I think that scene also speaks so much to the audience of the present time, and then Leo's dilemma kind of fits in perfectly into that.
And the fact that the film is releasing on Netflix. So, again, Janvi, please go ahead.
What Aniket just said, no, it reminded me of that kahani, the Sher Aaya part, which I agreed to him ki abhi people, we are just say like world is ending, but it's not actually ending. But when it will really end, like you were also trying to say, people will be too late to even accept the fact that we are going to die. तो वो शेर आया वाला कहानी मेरे को याद आया, वही जो डेथ वाला यू वर सेइंग, सो सम ऑफ इट दे हैव ट्राइड टू शो कि यू कैन कंपेयर लाइक हाउ जेनिफर टुक द थिंग दैट इट इज डाइंग, सो शी इज looking for a way to tell the people and somehow get a solution to deflect the comment, but her boyfriend is like he can not just believe that he's going to die in 6 months. So वो difference भी दिखाया है कि where जो एकदम ही कॉमन लेमैन पीपल है who don't have the capacity to accept the fact also कि comment आके टूटने वाला you are going to die, they are just not able to believe it and they are going out of their mind कि अरे I'm going to just die, whereas the scientists and all are trying to avoid the whole situation and keep the human life existence. So maybe that one difference comes out when you are thinking on a bigger level.
Because you mentioned about that वो lion/भेड़िया वाला जो स्टोरी पूरा है, मेरे को दिमाग में सबसे पहले पता है क्या आया, बिकॉज सेट कि हमने इतनी बार सुन लिया इसलिए बाद में आएगा नहीं, सबसे दिमाग में मेरे आया जब तक सनीमा है लोग चूतिया बनते रहे, जो दिमाग में आया मेरे को वो चीज, क्योंकि हमने इतनी अपोकलिप्टिक पिक्चरें बना के रखी है कि असली में होगा it's impossible to believe now. So throughout the film I was like the way they are telling it also feels so filmy, but है ना आयरन मैन बचा लेगा, मतलब ऐसा दिमाग में आता है, मतलब दिमाग में नहीं आता कि मतलब कुछ होने वाला है असली में नहीं होने वाला.
तो मैं कहते संकल्प वाले पॉइंट को कंटिन्यू करूंगा, जब वो कह रहा था कि मतलब मजाक चल रहा है कि ये मतलब इनको बताना पड़ रहा है कि डोंट लुक अप. ये सी मेरे को क्या लगता है कि फिल्म किस वजह से वर्क नहीं करा सर्टेन ऑडियंस के लिए, क्योंकि उनको सब कुछ पता है, उनको पता है कि ये इतनी सिंपल सी बात क्यों बता रहे हैं मेरे को, कि ये तो पता है मेरे को कि ये डोंट लुक अप क्या है, इतना मेरे को इतना कहते स्पून फीडिंग क्यों कर रहे हो. बट प्रॉब्लम क्या है कि लोगों को पता ही नहीं है, लोग अभी भी मतलब कहते देख नहीं रहे, इस वजह से उनको बताना पड़ रहा है इतना कहते बहुत मतलब तुमको समझा के बता रहा है. हाँ मतलब ये पहले तो मजाक है, मतलब एक अवेयर ऑडियंस के लिए, एक अवेयर सिटीजन के लिए इसको ये तो मजाक है, ये सब तो मेरे को पता है, ये सब क्यों दिखा रहा है, मेरे को पता है कि ये रोज न्यूज पे यही होता है, रोज ये होता है, कि मेरे को हर चीज मेटाफर की तरह वर्क करा पूरे फिल्म में, कि जब वर्ल्ड एंड हो रहा है तो वर्ल्ड एंड हो रहा है, वर्ल्ड काफी लोगों के लिए एंड हो चुका है, सीरिया या फिर कहते हैं बहुत सारे जगह है जहाँ पे बच्चे मर रहे हैं, खाने के लिए नहीं है उनके पास, वहां पे अभी भी बॉम्ब, ये जो मेटेओराइट्स है ये रोज आते हैं उनके यहाँ पे और रोज बच्चे मरते हैं.
It was a very interesting point that you mentioned over here, especially the part how you use the meteor wala symbolism to how it's already a thing. So that was a very, very interesting point you mentioned. Radhika?
So many things got discussed. I'm like इधर उधर की क्या बोलने वाली थी मैं, but I had written some things. So when you had spoken about the inevitable doom, तो when you get to know तो वो 5 stages of grief से तो आप बहुत ही evidently जाते हैं, मूवी में भी दिखता है, you know, first they're denying it कि नहीं नहीं ऐसे, they themselves are denying it कि नहीं नहीं होगा, and towards the end we saw them, you know, just sitting for dinner and accepting it. But like बहुत interesting चीजें थी. We are talking about fragmented reality and how there are so many distractions in our society. But how do we decide the distractions when it is an event, inevitable doom? सब मरने वाले, तो how does anything matter, right? तो इसलिए with the reference of like pop culture being इतना ज़्यादा in this thing and people being so distracted, ऐसा लगता है कि where do you draw the line of what is important, what is not? Why is it important for someone to know the world is ending? मरने तो वाले ही है वैसे भी, मतलब mortal तो है ही हम, ठीक है? So that was very interesting to just think about like ऐसे randomly, and also all the things that we consider distractions, चाहे आप religion ले लो for that matter or celebrities or anything, these are people who help you get through some of the most difficult times as well. So that was just like randomly something that came up, and also it's so hard for us to believe something or to listen to something that when you're helpless. Like I remember the farmers protest was at peak. I just after a point of time I had the privilege to completely cut off from the news because I felt so helpless. I'm like, मैं क्या ही करूँ? I cannot do anything, and this is just causing me so much distress. Again, मेरा privilege था कि I could cut off from it, you know, and that is what sorry, and that is what we end up doing also. Like when you just एकदम से ऐसा कुछ न्यूज आया जैसे इन द मूवी ऑल्सो, पीपल weren't listening, like ठीक है, like let it pass, you know, we have to earn our bread and butter. It's difficult for somebody who's managing their everyday to suddenly think about the big picture. Why will they think about the big picture? And also one very interesting thing, I just couldn't understand why did they name the movie Don't Look Up. ठीक है, because clearly the entire message of the film is to look up कि भाई देख लो, but then I'm just like ये human nature है, जैसे ही बोलते कोई चीज ना करो वैसे ही वो करेंगे, you know. So that was something that was like very hilarious for me कि is it that, or if somebody has a different reason कि क्यों शायद movie का नाम है, please tell me. This was the only one I could come up with.
I think Aniket is saying something about that. Please go ahead.
Yeah. So I think, you know, ये film को US politics के perspective से भी बहुत देखना पड़ेगा to find its greater relevance. Like, so if you look at the filmmaker, like, so do you know about QAnon conspiracy theories which have been happening in the US? So there, you know, there the right wing is spreading this stories that the democratic leaders जो है, they drink the blood of young people, babies and all of that, and actually people are buying that, you know. So that much, like, so it's, so if we consider the US as extremely developed nation state and all of that, with all the technological progress and all of that, that much is a fragmentation of their reality, right? I think a lot of that film is about that. It's a lot about confirmation bias also. Like यहाँ पे Wordle कौन खेल रहा है? Wordle कोई किसी को नहीं समझ. अच्छा, so Wordle जब से NYT ने खरीद लिया ना, so the words a little bit like coincidentally थोड़े difficult हो गए. So everyone started thinking, blaming at New York Times कि यार New York Times से जब से Wordle खरीद लिया, it's becoming difficult and all of that. But what New York Times did was remove the difficult words. But just because of the confirmation bias of people, everyone started believing in this conspiracy कि New York Times ने लेके उसको difficult कर दिया है वगैरह वगैरह. So this film is a lot about that confirmation bias also in people, and that is why it is named as Don't Look Up, because it's a campaign. Like, so if you have noticed, Meryl Streep is playing the female Donald Trump in the movie. So she's that, like, across, like, what matters to her, the whole angle of the Jonah Hill being her son being the chief of staff, or she appointing the chief justice, you know, who does not have anything to do with, you know, judiciary, or even the NASA ka head jo appoint karti hai. And actually things like that are happening in the US and in India as well. Like, a lot of people who are being appointed at the heads of state have no, like, you know, people who have been appointed to FTI ke jo heads वगैरह hai, they have nothing got to do with films and all of that. So this disrespect, like, the first job a fascist does is breaks down the institutions which hold relevance to, you know, the public. So that's like in India it has been done across. Only हमारा जो art है बचा है, उस पे भी धीरे धीरे कोशिश की जा रही है कि पूरा बॉलीवुड को ब्रेक करे, इसको भी फ्रेगमेंट करे, इसको भी तोड़ दे सिस्टम को एंड ऑल ऑफ दैट. So the film is not about that also. So I think it has to be viewed. And then the campaign of Trump, whichever he's ran, make America great again or whatever, I think it comes from that. Like वो cap पे वो don't look up आना था, and that campaign was going to be run like that. I think that is why the film was named that. That it's something as obvious as just don't look up. But even if you tell people that through a very smart marketing campaign, people who are studying marketing and advertising will know that you can tell a white lie and get away with it. Right? And people who are smart enough, and these people are people who have all the world's money, all the world's PR machinery. They control the kind of content we consume, what we read, what we watch, what we listen. So they can, like Netflix pay in a documentary, The Great Hack. It's so ironical again, right? Like the film is again on Netflix, which suggests you film by algorithms and all of that. So I think the film is a lot about that, and I think that is where the don't look up thing comes up. And so again, like I think narratively this is a brilliant film. Like I like the point the most shocking key is cinematically, that thing is not there, but I still feel this is a cinematic genius in many ways. The way it is edited, the way every character hits the note perfectly. Like aisa nahi ki everyone has gone up, gone down. The sexual tension between Jonah Hill and Jennifer Lawrence. Watch 25 minutes extra of Jonah Hill roasting Jennifer Lawrence, boy with the dragon tattoo. No, the way even Jonah Hill, when he has to give speech, he thanks. Let's give a prayer for stuff. Let's thank people who help you, people who are walking you, and it's hilarious. Like his reality is that, if you empathize with Jonah Hill's character, his reality is that he thinks people as helpers. He thinks stuff is important in his life and all of that. So I believe narratively, every character hit the note perfectly. And why did the general charge them $10? I
really need to know that. It's the question of the year.
Add थोड़ा सा अगर मैं यहाँ पे pitch in कर सकूँ. हाँ.
Please.
Yeah. तो मेरे को वही कहना था कि किस वजह से फिल्म वर्क करा, अनिकेत ब्यूटीफुली पॉइंटेड आउट, बट किस वजह से मतलब जो कुछ खामियां रह गई फिल्म में, दैट आई थिंक कि द फैक्ट दैट कि इट डील्स विद अमेरिका, मतलब पूरा सेंट्रल थीम इज अमेरिका एंड इट डील्स विद उसके अराउंड इट्स डीलिंग विद द वर्ल्ड का पॉलिटिक्स. बट मेरे को इंडिया का, आई वाज लुकिंग फॉर इंडिया का कुछ तो मिले, कुछ तो कहीं पे इसका मिले जो फैसिज्म इस हद तक पहुंच गया है, या फिर किसी दूसरे कंट्रीज का. 3 चीजें बस मेरे को मिली इंडिया का कॉन्टेक्स्ट. एक तो जब वो बंदा स्पेसक्राफ्ट में था तो वो कह रहा था कि दोनों इंडियंस को मिलना चाहिए, और दूसरा ईशान खट्टर ओपी, और लास्ट में क्रेडिट में हिमेश पटेल का नाम आया. बस दैट्स इट.
अगर ऐसा कुछ होगा तो फिर क्या होगा, मतलब हम लोग क्या फील करेंगे, मतलब कहाँ जाएंगे, क्या होगा. तो इट्स लाइक कि हमें परेशान होना चाहिए कि आगे क्या होने वाला है या नहीं होना चाहिए. तो हमें आगे परेशान, अच्छा मैं बता देता हूँ. कुछ टाइम पहले मैं एक वीडियो देख रहा था यूट्यूब पे, जिसके अंदर इट टोल्ड कि इंडिया, मतलब पूरा हमारा जो अर्थ है उसको कैसे कितना टाइम लगेगा खत्म होने में, और कितने टाइम में वो एकदम जम जाएगा, लाइक दोबारा ऐसे जाएगी, देन हम लोगों को यहाँ से निकलना पड़ेगा, फिर कैसे कैसे करके हमारी गैलेक्सी खत्म होगी, व्हाइट डॉग बनेंगे, ब्लैक डॉग बनेंगे, एनर्जी खत्म हो जाएगी, फिर हमारा कुछ ऐसी एनालॉजी थी कि एक हाथ उठाने के लिए भी 1000 साल लग जाएंगे, और वो मतलब बहुत सारी चीजें थी, और इतना डरावना था वो, मतलब वो 18-28 मिनट की वीडियो थी. तो वो रात में देख के मेरे एक मतलब कुछ घंटों के लिए लाइक क्या हो गया, मैं क्या करूंगा, मतलब ये तो टेंशन वाली बात हो गई. मतलब इट्स लाइक कितना हॉरिफाइंग है वो चीज, जब आप भटक रहे हो दर दर बचने के लिए, सरवाइव करने के लिए. लाइक सर्वाइवल इज मोर पेनफुल देन डेथ. तो इट्स सिमिलर टू व्हाट्स हैपनिंग इन सीरिया और इवन इराक और अफगानिस्तान. तो इट्स लाइक कि ऑलरेडी वो एपोलिटिक टाइम में जी रहे हैं, हम लोग सिर्फ सोच रहे हैं, उन लोगों के लिए वो चीज आ चुकी है. तो माही भैया ने वो क्या पॉइंट बोल दिया, मैं तो आपकी सारी इंद्रियां खुल गई. हाँ, एक मेरे को जो बात अभी तक नहीं आई है, इलॉन मस्क ऑफ द फिल्म, उसके बारे में बात नहीं हुई अभी तक कि क्या करने वाले हैं इलॉन मस्क साहब. लाइक वी ह्यूमन थिंक्स कि हम लोगों से बड़ा कोई आदमी ही नहीं है, मतलब हम तो बच ही जाएंगे, दुनिया में क्या ही है. इलॉन मस्क को लाइक इट्स लाइक कि पहले सेंट हुआ करते थे जिनको बाद में भगवान का नाम, मतलब इट्स नॉट लाइक दैट के, लेकिन बट इट्स लाइक पहले सेंट हुआ करते थे, वो अपने आप को कुछ समझते थे. अब इलॉन मस्क है, वो अपने आप को कुछ समझते हैं. एंड अगर हम साइंटिफिकली जो रिसर्चेस होती है उस हिसाब से देखा जाए, अगर हम जनरेशन वाइज देखेंगे, तो अगर बाकी गैलेक्सी एग्जिस्ट जो ऑब्वियसली करती हैं, बाकी जो सोलर सिस्टम एग्जिस्ट करते हैं, तो उनके हिसाब से तो हम अभी बहुत ही नीचे हैं, हम बहुत ही बैकवर्ड हैं, उनके हिसाब से वो लोग को पता नहीं क्या क्या कंट्रोल कर सकते हैं अपने साइंस के थ्रू, और हम लोग तो उनसे बहुत ही पीछे हैं। तो इट्स लाइक कि हम लोगों को हमेशा ये लगता है कि एक वो प्रिटेंशियस फीलिंग रहती है हमारे अंदर, जो इलॉन, मतलब किसका क्या पॉइंट है वो इलॉन मस्क को लेके ऑफ द फिल्म, क्वेश्चन है एक तरीके से।
बिकॉज रिदम मेड अ वेरी वंडरफुल पॉइंट, इसके बारे में बहुत बात करेंगे, मुझे मजा आता है, अबाउट द स्पेस ऑडिसी वाला फिलोसफी, 2001 स्पेस ऑडिसी वाला पूरा फिलोसफी जो है ना, कि मतलब आर अंडरस्टैंडिंग दैट वी आर, हमारे बाप की जागीर है, मतलब ये पृथ्वी हमारे बाप की जागीर है, तो जो मर्जी हमारा ही है, मतलब सारा एवेंजर्स में सारे ह्यूमंस ही लड़ेंगे, दुनिया भी हम ही चलाएंगे, खत्म भी हम ही करेंगे। तो लाइक आई रिमेंबर आई हैड मेड दिस, आई हैड रिटन दिस समथिंग अबाउट हाउ I remember watching this film, ठीक है, मैंने उस पे एक बनाया था, वीडियो बनाया था, what was the film, फैंटास्टिक प्लैनेट करके एक फिल्म है, मैंने मूवी पे देखी थी, ठीक है, it's an old animated film, I think हर्षल को पता होगा, yes, it's a wonderful film, ठीक है, उसमें कैसा है, humans are pets of a higher species of some other ठीक है, organism or something, humans are their pets, and it's the film is about humans revolting against pro communist, वो उस सेंस में पूरा वैसा है उसका, बट उसमें ये दिखाया गया, I got a relation, the fact that humans in the world's intellectual food chain, in the world as in world, संसार के intellectual food chain में बहुत ही उनका modest positioning है, I think they probably fall somewhere in the center, and I think that realization is very important because we forget that so I remember, मुझे युवल नोआ हरी बड़ा बढ़िया बंदा लगता है, मैंने तीनों किताबें पढ़ी उसके यहाँ पे, अभी मैं आई एम रीडिंग होमो ड्यूस पढ़ रहा हूँ, तो मेरे को तो बड़ा सही बंदा लगता है, लाइक हिज the way he communicates things I really like. I also for some random reason felt that he might be involved in something uncredited in this film as well, but I don't know if he is really. But in this, he also talks about this a lot, about how probably are humans really that powerful and intellectual, or are they just good bullies? मतलब उसका पूरा अंडरस्टैंडिंग तो मेरे को काफी वो बढ़िया लगता है, एंड यहाँ पे भी people never talk about the fact that animals will die or plants will get finished. They always talk about कि हम मर जाएंगे, and हमें we just get snapshots of other animals, of plants and all these things in the film. No one actually mentions that. Probably that's not a priority for them, पता नहीं शायद से. So just a very interesting thought experiment to have about कितना intellectual superiority है हमारा या नहीं है. And I remember watching Space Odyssey, उसका जो last scene था, in that he's going through Saturn के पास से rays से, he's just looking at things, and it's just so abstract, that entire scene, because it's one of those things that you don't understand what's happening, and probably that's okay. Not everything that in the world is supposed to be understood by humans. वो मेरे को उस सीन में रियलाइजेशन आया था कि मतलब कुछ ये समझ में नहीं आएगी, कुछ ऐसे कलर्स होंगे जो ह्यूमंस के मतलब वो नहीं शायद समझ पाए या देख पाए, हो सकता है. So I think वो सीन से मेरे को I just try to relate to that because it's also about how humans feel about themselves, this particular film, and how also the fact that the film is inherently presupposes the fact that life is existential in its nature, it purpose nahi hai inherent uska koi hai वगैरह वगैरह, and like how the world started by coincidence is going to end by coincidence. वो meteor आया, coincidence से खत्म, निपटने वाला है, शुरू भी randomly हुआ था एकदम एक तरीके से. So that full circle of coincidence वाला एक काफी एक अच्छा वो loop लपेटा type scene लगा मेरे को उस चीज में.
Yeah, so I have conflict over here कि I'm also not ready to believe कि everything is under control of humans, and again I'm also not ready to believe कि God is controlling us, and human has that power. और जो लोग ये believe करते हैं कि humans can control everything, वो लोगों का audience काफी limited है, मतलब बहुत कम लोग ऐसा सोचते हैं. So मैक्सिमम लोग बिलीव इन फिक्शन. सो एंड सेपियंस अभी मैं पढ़ रही हूँ, तो उस बुक में काफी अच्छे से एक्सप्लेन किया है कि फिक्शन इज व्हाट मेड अस बॉन्ड, फिक्शन इज व्हाट मेड अस फॉर्म कम्युनिटीज, देन ग्रुप्स, and everything revolves around religion, and also capitalism is a religion in itself, and communism is religion. So people are ready to believe in fiction than in reality. So I'm not really sure if we should, like, which way we should choose ki if God is controlling us or we can control everything, or if we can go hand in hand.
ये सभी narratives ही तो है, मतलब I mean गॉड कंट्रोलिंग या फिर हम कंट्रोलिंग, वो भी नैरेटिव्स ही है. रियलिटी है क्या, वो तो कुछ भी तो नहीं है. शायद रियलिटी इज मैट्रिक्स, हु नोस.
ये बहुत बड़ा डिबेट है एक्चुअली, लाइक फ्री विल वर्सेस डिटर्मिनिज्म.
डिटर्मिनिज्म, या
Like, you know, what is free will, तुम्हारे हाथ में कितना है, and how many factors are there, like what is the debate between nurture and nature and all those things. So I think हम लोगों के लिए these all questions are driven by context. Like, you know, if you look at it through only one lens, that lens will always be imperfect. Like, you know, it will have, that system will have its flaws and all of that. So as you grow, as you collect your data and all of that, you have to kind of evaluate things by the context of, you know, really seeing of from your perspective, from the compatibility of all of it. Like, you can never say, okay, this is just the way it is. Like, if you say that, then you limit really yourself, is what I feel. कि तुम अपने आप पे बहुत लिमिटेशन डाल देते हो एक ही पर्सपेक्टिव से सब देखने का, और फिर बाकी सब जो हो रहा है वो ब्लॉक हो जाता है. So, and that is why the discrimination also, like this, I think this film is a lot about that also, how increasingly the polar differences that are coming in the world. You know, you have to be tribalistic, you have to be either this or this. You cannot be, you know, you cannot be the other side. Like, if you are, say, liberal, you have to be liberal in all aspects of your life. But whereas you will see, like, a lot of people who are liberal in their politics are conservative in their life choices. They're conservative in their behavioral choices and all of that. So there's a lot of this tribalism which affects us day to day. Like, तुम्हारी फेवरेट क्रिकेट टीम का हार गई, उस दिन तुमको बहुत बुरा लगता है, बस दिन खराब जाएगा, मेरा पूरा दिन खराब गया यार बिकॉज टीम हार गई. That's tribalism. Like, you feel yourself as a part of a group, and then you attach everything of your life, like, let be governed by that group and all of that. So I think a lot of the, like, this film is a lot about that as well, like how people are divided into different segments. And then that leaves, when people are divided into different segments, that leaves opportunity for people to take advantage of these people. Like, then the people like Mark Rylance in the film, or like, you know, Meryl Streep's character and all of that, then it becomes an opportunity for fascists to use that divide, you know, to utilize that hate. Like, immediately, like, if you look at World War I में जब Germany गंदी तरीके से हारा था, so that gave birth to Hitler, right? Like, in the sense कि how he utilized the hate of the people to turn into all of that. And same thing is happening, like, close to home for us and all of that. So yeah, that thing is there. So a lot of that film is about that. But बहुत interesting debate है free will versus determinism का, like.
Absolutely, fucking absolutely.
Yeah.
Rhythm, yeah, please go ahead.
So मेरे को तो पहले श्रद्धा से जानना है तेरे को, why do you want to know कि क्या perfect way है. So I'll start my answer कि religion को तो लाना ही नहीं है इसमें. I think the only way to go forward is to ask right questions, to look up, to know things, to have a debate, to understand something. I think Aniket beautifully pointed कि when the differences, मतलब see, उसका भी ऐसा ही रखते मिर्जा का फिल्म है सलीम नगरे पे मत रहो, तो उसमें वो लोग कहते हैं कि इतने सारे थ्योरीज हो रहे हैं, इतने सारे कहते हैं साइंटिस्ट वगैरह वो काम कर रहे हैं टू नो द, कहते हैं हम लोग कितने अलग हैं, कि ये मेल है, ये फीमेल है, ये है, ये ऐसा है, ये वैसा है, ह्यूमंस कैन स्पीक, एलियंस कांट स्पीक, एलियंस कैन स्पीक इन दिस लैंग्वेज, इतने सारे डिफरेंसेस, एंड अभी भी इतने सारे डिफरेंसेस क्रिएट किए जा रहे हैं. Why this consumerism, ये capitalism, ये आया किस वजह से? To divide people, to rule upon them, to मतलब, तो इसका perfect answer तुम्हें understand, you have to understand कि how can I defeat it, how can I make it. So उमर खालिद ने कहा था कि the only way to defeat fascism is to be happy, because they don't want you to be happy. And when you are happy, then it's kind of a revolution in itself, because you are telling them कि हाँ मैं I can be happy, I can make peace with this situation, and I can fight for it, I can help someone, I can try, I can at least try. I think the whole movie was trying to say कि we tried to save this planet that is already doomed. There is no future, but we are still trying. And you just have to ask right questions. So the film अरविंद देसाई की अजीब दास्तां of सईद अख्तर मिर्जा ends with the quote कि हम लोग लास्ट में सिर्फ इतना ही कर सकते हैं कि हम लोग सही सवाल पूछे. There is no right way to go forward कि किस तरफ जाना है क्या. So the whole fact कि हम लोग इतने सारे differences create कर रहे हैं, but nobody is asking कि हम लोग को जोड़ क्या रहा है. What binds humans? What makes, कहते us humans? हम लोग अभी डिबेट कर रहे हैं, हम लोग अभी इस बात पे डिस्कशन कर रहे हैं. That is the central thing of कि what we should ask कि हम लोग कितने कनेक्टेड है, इन व्हाट वेज वी आर कनेक्टेड, rather than think कि हम लोग कितने डिफरेंट है।
मेरा क्वेश्चन कुछ मेटाफर्स को लेके था कि आप लोगों ने क्या क्या मेटाफर्स देखे फिल्म के अंदर, लाइक छोटे मोटे, लाइक मैं जब मैंने बोला था, मैंने जब वाली मीटिंग रखी थी तो व्हेन वी डिस्कस्ड, तो उसके अंदर कुछ लोग थे हु जैसे कि जो क्रिश्चियनिटी पढ़ते हुए हैं और हुआ क्रिश्चियंस, तो उन्होंने मतलब आई कांट एक्सपेक्ट कि कोई जिस बंदे ने ये कुछ चीजें पॉइंट आउट करी, ही डजंट हैव एनी सेंस ऑफ सिनेमा एंड ही इज नॉट वेरी विजुअली लिटरेट, मतलब विजुअली लिटरेट पता नहीं क्या, मतलब इट्स लाइक वो बहुत वो वाला बंदा नहीं जिसने बहुत ज्यादा जिसने बहुत ज्यादा फिल्म्स देखी हैं यार, वो है, बट ही पॉइंटेड आउट सम इतने इररेलेवेंट और इतने सेंसिबल पॉइंट मेटाफर्स फ्रॉम द फिल्म कि मेरा दिमाग खराब हो गया। लाइक लिख के रखा था इसलिए मैंने, वो था उसके शायद जब वो बैश वाला फोन जो लेके आता है, तो उसमें जो वो उसका वो होता है 14.3 करके कुछ था, मुझे नहीं पता क्या था वो 14.3 करके उसका कुछ एक ऐसी चीज थी, मतलब शायद उसका मॉडल का नाम था 14.3 या कुछ तो था 14.3, तो विच इज ये बाइबल के अंदर 14.3 जो 14 उसका वो जो वर्स है, थर्ड वर्स, तो उसके अंदर वो वर्स कुछ इस तरीके से आता है जो मैंने लिखा है, लेकिन मैं पढ़ नहीं पा रहा हूँ, गंदी राइटिंग में लिखा है, बट व्हाट इट मेंट वाज कि मैं मतलब द गॉड द समवन जिसको हम लोग नहीं जानते हैं विल कम एंड टेक यू विद देम, तो वो मेटाफर था मेटेरियड का, मेटेरियड आएगा और तुमको ले जाएगा अपने साथ, और मैं कोशिश करूंगा कि मैंने जो लिखा हुआ पढ़ पाता हूँ तो मैं वो बताता हूँ। तो इट्स लाइक बहुत छोटे छोटे मेटाफर्स हैं जो उसके अंदर दिए, लाइक जब वो सिगरेट पी रही होती है द मैरिज स्ट्रीट, तो वो सिगरेट पी रही है और राइट में उसके लिखा हुआ फ्लेमेबल, और वो वहीं पे सामने सिगरेट पी रही है। ये तो ये कुछ चीजें थी जो पॉइंट आउट हुई थी, तो अगर किसी ने मेटाफर्स देखे हो इस तरह से,
आई थिंक वो टिमोथी शैलेमे का जो कैरेक्टर इंट्रोडक्शन है आखिरी में, दैट इज यू नो सॉर्ट ऑफ दैट इज वेरी रिफ्रेशिंग। वो कोट बहुत ब्रिलियंट था, जैसे टाइम उसका आया था कि यू नो दे आर डिस्कसिंग और दे आर टॉकिंग अबाउट यू नो दिस सॉन्ग दैट वर्ल्ड वॉर 2 सोल्जर्स वर लिसनिंग टू while they were going, and they talk about like you know there are like mountains that we cannot scale and like this we cannot do, but we have to be with each other. Aisa kuch to be like, it is about looking for what is hopeful for you, and that is what they're doing now. It is inevitable. I think one beautiful question the film asks is like, if the world is ending, where would you be, where would you want to be? Like you know everyone gets that moment in the film. Agar wo dekhoge ek montage hai beech mein, wo montage is also brilliantly cut, like what different people are doing, like you know sort of there is a kid somewhere, there is this you know this couple who's making out and all of that, and like the way that is cut, and then Leo is making his choices, the 2 journalists are with each other, you know, drinking in a bar, you know, by themselves and all of that. So I think that is one of the brilliant questions. But like coming back to Timothy's character, like I think वो बहुत hopeful character था, you know, in the film. So if you go back to like the conversation that they are having when they are on the terrace, Jennifer Lawrence and Timothy ka character and all of that, and he talks about like his parents were Christians. I moved out of it, and he says I found my way back into it in my own way. Like it's about like how he found something to hold on to. Like rather than religion, I would look at it that way. Like you know, because life is governed a lot by the faiths that you have. It can be about religion, it can be whatever narrative you choose to believe in, and all of that. And then that beautiful moment comes where towards the end they are sitting at the dinner table and they are like, you know, this is not a religious household. What do we do? How do we say, like, I don't know how to say amen and how to say the prayer and all of that. And then that moment comes where the youngest on the table, barring his 2 sons, but Timothy's character who is the youngest on the table, he is making the prayer for everyone, and he, you know, gives the perfect, like amidst a very film which is very satirical, like as you know Saharsh was also pointing out, that there are these moments of deep humanity in this film. Like it's not कि ये filmmaker ने insensitivity या फिर because of lack of empathy ये film बनाई है audience को लेके. I think it is because of the deep empathy that he has towards the audience, that is why he has tried to tell a film in this particular manner. और वो ऐसे कुछ moments से आ गए हैं, like that can I be vulnerable in your car should be a t-shirt quote. Like I would buy that t-shirt. Capitalism rocks, but क्या करें?
Absolutely, it's the only way we manifest ourselves एक तरीके से, through t-shirts and capitalism eventually. Mahit, please go ahead.
Yeah, I just मेरे को तो पहले वो कार वाले सीन पे, वो गाने वाले सीन पे कहना था, बट अनिकेत ने जो कहा कि मतलब ये बहुत डीप एम्पैथी से बनाई गई फिल्म है, इवन दो इट्स नॉट परफेक्ट, बट इसकी इतनी नीड थी, इतना इतना इंपॉर्टेंट था कि उससे बनाए बिना रुका नहीं है। कि अगर वो इतना लेट नहीं बना सकता था, मे बी अगर इसने बहुत ज्यादा रिसर्च करके, बहुत अच्छा स्क्रिप्ट लिख करके, बहुत अच्छा कास्ट लेकर के, सब कुछ करके बहुत अच्छी फिल्म बना सकता था आज से 2 साल बाद। बट उसका रेलिवेंस इतना है अभी के टाइम में कि ही जस्ट कुडंट, कहते हैं, अपने को रोक ही नहीं पाया। और दूसरा बात, जो वो कार वाला सीन, वो गाने वाला सीन है, आई डोंट नो इफ इट वाज इंस्पायर्ड बाय, कहते दिस फिलाडेल्फिया फिल्म है एक टॉम हैंक्स का, या फिर कहते हैं जो भी जिस तरीके से भी उसने किया, क्योंकि इस फिल्म में बहुत सारे फिल्म का रेफरेंस है।
No, but I wish to talk about this one thing, about the film's commentary on democracy itself. तो मैंने रिसेंटली ही प्लेटो का रिपब्लिक का एक सेकंड वो पढ़ा मैंने, नॉट लाइक डायरेक्टली मैं पढ़ने की कोशिश किया, बट मेरे से हुआ नहीं, बिकॉज पता नहीं एग्जैक्टली कैसे पढ़ते हैं एकेडमिकली, तो मैं बोला भाई ऐसे समझ नहीं आएगा, छोड़ो। तो मैंने सेकेंडरी लिटरेचर पढ़ के थोड़ा हजम किया उसको, छोटी छोटी किताबें शुरू किया, बट मेरे को काफी काफी अच्छे थॉट्स है उससे, ठीक है। एंड उसमें ये एसेंशियली यही बता रहे हैं ना प्रॉब्लम की, मतलब अबाउट डेमागोगी एंड ऑफ अबाउट दोज रूलर्स हु आर गुड ओरेटर्स but that's all they are, and about the problems with majoritarianism and problems with democracy, इसमें जो उसने बात की उसके बारे में, and he talks about how the most intellectual and the wisest people are the ones who are supposed to rule, not the best orators, not the best presenters of things are supposed to rule. So he talks about how you can find those people. इनसे पूरा टेस्ट बताया है कि 10 साल की उम्र में बच्चों को साथ में ऐसे लेके जाओ, ऑब्वियसली बॉयज ओनली, मतलब उसके अंडरस्टैंडिंग में बॉयज ओनली उसमें से था, कि 10 साल तक उनको साथ में रखो, टॉक, उनको ऐसे फिजिकल टेस्ट करवाओ, टीच देम म्यूजिक आफ्टर दैट, टीच देम दिस आफ्टर दैट, दैट आफ्टर दैट, एंड हमेशा हर 5 साल में एलिमिनेशन का टेस्ट करवाओ। एंड जो 50 साल की उम्र में उनको जितना सारा थियरी दे दिया, नाउ लीव देम इन द वर्ल्ड फॉर 5 years to figure themselves out for themselves, figure it out for themselves, and after that उसके 5 साल बाद में जो survive करते हैं eventually are the ones who are supposed to rule, because they have seen the world, they know the theory, they know everything now, they are wise, they are ready to be the rulers. So he, according to him, was 50 or 52 was the right age to be a ruler. And जो लोग हार जाते हैं उस टेस्ट में, जो हर स्टेप पे, तो लोएस्ट लेवल पे आते हैं बिजनेसमैन, उसके बाद में आते हैं देयर वर एडमिनिस्ट्रेटर्स एंड और लोग थे, एंड देन द रूलर्स हु आर देयर। उसका अंडरस्टैंडिंग ऐसे था पूरा एक तरीके से। एंड यहाँ पे वही बताया गया ना कि द पीपल हु आर गुड ओरेटर्स, हु आर गुड प्रेजेंटर्स, लाइक यहाँ पे भी इन दिस फिल्म एज वेल, मेरिल स्ट्रीप फॉर एग्जांपल is the one who actually is ruling and not the intelligent one. For example, जब वो पहली बार पिच करते हैं उसको कि भाई एग्जैक्टली हो क्या रहा है, एंड उसको पूरा मैथ्स के साथ समझाने की कोशिश करते हैं कि मतलब ऐसे मीटियोर आने वाला है, ऐसे ये इतने स्पीड से आ रहा है, इतना ये आ रहा है, उसको पल्ले नहीं पड़ रहा, ना ही उसके बेटे को पड़ रहा, ना ही उसको पड़ रहा है, बिकॉज इवेंचुअली इट बिकेम अबाउट कि हम कैसे ही कम्युनिकेट करें लोगों को या नहीं करें लोगों को कम्युनिकेट जिसके बारे में। सो and eventually these are the people who are ruling us, not the people who are the more intelligent ones who probably should be ruling us, matlab according to the Plato's philosophy. I don't know usko test karne pe kaisa ho kaisa nahi ho, but again these demagogues themselves are actually not ruled by their own thought but by those who fund them. So actually dekha jaye to Elon Musk chala raha hai duniya in the film jahan pe jo hai, तो इट्स नॉट इवन ऑन देम टू रूल, बिकॉज इवेंचुअली देखा जाए तो उसके एक बार बोलने पे उसने वो रिटर्न करवा दिया उसको रॉकेट को पीछे आधे रास्ते में। तो हु इज रियली इन कंट्रोल इज समथिंग दैट रियली मेरे दिमाग में काफी आया while watching the film.
Yeah, about this point that you just brought up, we should have those let the intellectuals rule over the better orators. But at the end of the day, doesn't power corrupt, and wouldn't it like not matter who you were? So, for example, here we are comparing the Bash founder with Elon Musk, but actually, I think the writers intended for him to be both Elon Musk, Tim Cook, combination of, in fact, all billionaires right now, like Mark Zuckerberg, and same goes with like actually even the Meryl Streep character, Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. But what I was trying to say is Elon Musk, some at the maybe at the start of it came with good intentions. Like he could be like this intellectual you're describing, who may be a good idea to tell us what to do. But at the end of the day, maybe power corrupted, or that brings us back to the argument of like, what is there really relevance of like billionaires? Like, should we have them should we trust them with like using public money, or should we like just hike taxes up and distribute them and let democracy decide? So that's also interesting.
आई मीन फिल्म में एक बात थी ना वो कि मतलब शी सेज दैट मतलब अगर पावर नहीं होगा तो मैं तुम्हारा ये करूंगी भी कैसे, तो पहले मैं जीत जाती हूँ मिड टर्म्स, उसके बाद में देखते हैं, which was also practically makes sense, like वो कैसे करेगी मतलब, so the importance of being at a certain position and having certain privilege to actually make things happen also matters a lot.
So there's actually this guy who writes this blog called as Wait But Why. It's written by Tim Burton. So उसमें ना एक series है called as The Story of Us. So he's just documented like through a very simple analytical manner. He has told why we have become the way we have become. So उस पे पूरा एक session हो सकता है. Like we can do an abstract session on that series only. Like he has written a 6-part series in a very simple manner, like told very like, so you know what you're talking about, Plato's thing, like, so he disregards democracy a lot, right? Like he says it is one of the not so better forms of government because it gives the average layman who doesn't have that much of understanding the power to elect a representative who might govern his, you know, kind of him and all of that. And I think so in the modern world where how it relates and contextualizes is, so the where we are today, there is a lot of complication in our world, right? There's a lot of who started, what started, why we have become the way we have become. It's like, say, if you have to understand someone's trauma, like it's that kind. It's very deeply wired, and you know there are no simple answers. But the people who end up ruling are the people who give the simple answers. You know, they tell you, okay, there's an easy answer out there. You know, oh, Mexicans are responsible. Oh no, these people who are entering, the immigrants are the person who's taking away your job. And so to extremely complex problem, the people who take an opportunity and give very simple answers are the people who are using an advantage and kind of ending up ruling us and all of that. And it has got a lot to do with how we have structured in our consumption of media, in our consumption of information and all of that. There is a whole clickbait thing happens because we fall for the headline. We don't think of the story. We are like, okay, let's go for, you know, why this person has, you know, why the company has fallen and all of that. So it like interesting thing is like how our understanding of that rapid fire session जो होता है ना Coffee with Karan पे, like how people evaluate कि जो true nature रहेगा वो तभी निकल के आएगा जब वो rapid fire का answer करता है because he's instant answer. But I think why can't we give people the opportunity to deliberately think upon something and then get back with a response? You know, you might say, okay, then everyone will be structured and everyone will be well thought out and all of that. But at least we can hold people accountable to that word. You know, if we give them the opportunity to be deliberate and composed about their thought and all of that. But I think increasingly we are becoming that rapid fire generation where we are just wanting very simple, instant answers to extremely complex problems. And the next person who has to rule us just has to find that one simple answer. You know, this is it. And then we give up on our nuance. Like, you know, how, you know, on something like Twitter where you have to construct something in 240 characters, where's the space for nuance? And still we are on it every day. I love the platform. I'm there.
What is the first thing that you would do if you knew that the world is ending? Let's assume that everybody's accepted maybe. Let's just say, or at least you know कि भाई चलो 6 महीने है.
Yeah, you know, when you ask this question, what will you do if the world was ending? I kind of realized my favorite moment in the film, which was, you know, when they are really trying to save the Earth from this meteor, or when the common people like who are working towards it realize कि अब तो कुछ होने नहीं वाला है, everyone goes back to their own families or their loved ones. They have like a moment to like spare before they actually like die or perish. So what made me realize is like, suppose you have like a 6-month period where when you realize you're going to die, everything is going to get destroyed and everything. So there is a threshold between like human beings, which is like an attempt to save humanity. So they'll work for like they'll countermeasures and they'll create tactics to save the planet and everything. But वो एक limit तक ना, अगर वो उस चीज में उनको success नहीं मिलती, and if there's no direction to their own like trying, तो एक time पे they just abandon everything and go back to what basic human need is, like being loved and caring for your loved ones. So I find that very beautiful, and this is why I don't feel like this is a fiction film. I feel like this is an observational documentary on the basic nature of human beings and humanity, because in the end हम कितना भी like अपनी life में conflict के साथ जी लें, where we are like, I don't need love, I don't need to be loved, but when you are about to die, when you're about to like diminish your existence, then you realize the basic human need which is there in everyone, that's common with everyone, that is to like get some amount of love before you actually, you know like the whole existence of you is like history, is what I feel.
Like, I don't think so this film was made for a liberal audience. Like, मैं मेरे right wing वाले दोस्तों के लिए अगर film बनाता तो ऐसी कुछ film बनाता, is what I feel. Like, if you look at Sorkin's criticism of like the criticism Sorkin receives for Newsroom, he's often told that he's made a liberal fantasy, right? अगर तुम increasingly देखो कि उसने जैसे Newsroom बनाया, he's made a place where liberals would want to rant their hearts out. So उसको किसी ने बहुत अच्छे से काउंटर किया था कि if you look at Fox News, which is an actual news channel, it's a Republican fantasy, it's a right wing fantasy, which is an actual thing which is running. Like, which you compare India with, like, for example, Republic TV or Z News and all of that. They're actually saying those things, and Sorkin is just idealizing. Ki, at our best, this is where we could be. So Sorkin works because he gives that aspirational nature in his writing. Ki, okay, I understand, that है खराब चीजें वगैरह वगैरह, these things are shit, but this is where we can be. He has that very sort of aspirational nature to his writing and all of that. And same I feel for this thing, like this film, that I don't think so it was made for liberals specifically, though it came from a very liberal perspective, it came from a very progressive perspective, but it was made for everyone else. Like, if you have to, like, storytelling is a tool where you can without being aggressive or without being sort of condescending towards people. Like, okay, we can debate whether this was condescending towards people or not, but you can still reach out to them on some manner. You show them there is something which is as obvious as this, and you are still not seeing it. So I think this film was kind of made for, like, wanted to empathize and showcase the world, like, towards all of that. So yeah, that is one of the things which I, for your question, I felt, if any person would have made this film, if it has expression, it has to reach out to those people rather than to us. We will always feel कि ये सारे points तो covered है, मतलब फिर इसमें क्या नया बता दिया, because you have read it through. But if you look at this from a very uninformed person's perspective, or person who's not aware of it, or say, for example, 100 years from now, people have to study our civilization, this is the film they should look at. This is how our world was.
What Adam McKay does, and he has done with Big Shot also the same thing, like, basically all these stories are about the whole world, but like through a perspective of this certain character or a group of characters. But jo wo beech mein, you see these intercut scenes na, where he's showing a baby being born or a volcano erupting, or even in the Big Shot jab wo economic crisis ho raha hota hai, and then we see all these different things like a baby being born, or like a person in a supermarket and everything. We get an idea of ki this is not just focused on these many people, but there's a whole expansive world out there, and they are equally affected by this whole thing, be it the world economic crisis or a meteor hitting the fucking earth. So I think it's it's his visual technique, but it's a very, like, it works, and you get, matlab, ek point of time mein aap Leonardo DiCaprio ke perspective se bahar jump karke you realize there's a whole fucking world out there, and this is not just about this character.